Dad made me see a naturopathic doctor, and my symptoms were relieved within the first 3 months.
Dr. Nigma is a naturopathic doctor and has been the go-to skin expert for Hollywood celebrities.
Your patient said that they looked 20 years younger, 10 years younger. What is the link between gut health and premature aging?
And actually, naturopathic medicine is very science-based, even to the point of looking at the body at the cellular level.
I love that you talk about all these different faces. You have sugar face,
Yes.
wine face, dairy face, and gluten face. Tell me what a sugar face looks like. You're a very good representation of what you do because your skin is phenomenal. Is Botox really for prevention?
So I'm going to say yes and no, and I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why.
I'm Radhi Devlukia, and on my podcast, A Really Good Cry, we embrace the real, the messy, and the beautiful, providing a space for raw, unfiltered conversations that celebrate vulnerability and allow you to tune in to learn, connect, and find comfort together.
Dr. Nigma, my dear friend, thank you so much for being on this podcast. I'm so excited to have you here. And just for anybody who doesn't know, Dr. Nigma is one of my good friends, but also a world-renowned naturopathic doctor and the best skincare expert that I have ever met from Beverly Hills. And I feel like you've treated so many people throughout your years of experience. And so we're going to get into the real nitty-gritty of skincare because I feel like there's so much out there and it's so confusing. So I feel like everyone needs an expert in their life like you. I message you all the time. I message you all the time. I'm like, what about this? Have you heard about this?
I know, I love it.
It's the best. I have you on speed dial, and everybody needs a you on speed dial. And if they can't, they can listen to this podcast.
Exactly.
Okay, so first of all, tell me how you got into the work that you do and what took you to naturopathy.
You know, at a very young age, I was always the caretaker of the family. Like anybody had an ailment, I would be like trying to fix them and get them healthier. Yeah. And so I think it was in me at a very young age. And then my aunt was a well-known breast surgeon. So I really looked up to her. She was helping a lot of women with breast cancer. And so I thought, I want to be a doctor. Yeah. But what kind of doctor do I want to be? And it wasn't until I had my own health issues, like I had a lot of digestive issues, like we all do. You know, growing up, I was put on tons of antibiotics and, you know, for my asthma, for my digestion issues, for, you know, all sorts. And so that in the end had a big toll on my gut. Yeah. So I went to see a naturopathic doctor because my father, he's like 411. Anything that's wrong, he will find the solution. Yeah. And so Dad made me see a naturopathic doctor, and I literally, my symptoms were relieved within the first 3 months.
No way.
And I thought, this is the kind of doctor I want to be. So I knew in my teens, you know, quite early on that, okay, I'm going into naturopathic medicine. Nobody knows what it is, but I'm going to be the one to bring this message out. And so that was my goal, is to help other people.
And what's one of the key things that you found after being a naturopathic doctor for this long? What have you found differentiates naturopathy from conventional medicine? Because I'm sure you've had people that have come to you that have tried many things conventionally, but then they come to you and you're able to heal them. So what would you say are the differentiating factors between the two?
It's an interesting question because it brings a lot of people, when they hear naturopathic medicine, they think, okay, it's alternative or it's like, you know, it's not really science-based. And actually naturopathic medicine is very science-based, even to the point of looking at the body at the cellular level. So we're less about symptom drug and more about, okay, let's get into Radhi's gut and Radhi's cellular activity and see how are you metabolizing? How are you your toilet habits, your cell, your mitochondrial function by some of definitely your symptoms, but we use different functional tests to assess that. So we go above and beyond the conventional model. Yes. We do conventional lab tests just like medical doctors do, but we analyze them a lot differently. Yes. So we look at low normal ranges, high normal ranges. And also we also have to realize that those reference ranges were created for athletic men. They weren't really made for women. So it's about taking all of those considerations. And so really looking at the root cause.
That's so important. You know, I have friends and even team members that have told me that they have gone to a doctor and all their results come back within normal range. And they're like, but I don't feel well. And they're like, yeah, but your numbers are fine. You're okay. Your numbers are great. but they know they just do not feel good. And so at some point, there's this barrier when you go to a medical doctor where if you fall within these ranges and if you fit this criteria or you don't fit this criteria, we can't send you for a scan. We can't give you medication for it. We're not going to do any further assessment. And that's so difficult and jarring, mainly for women. I find that's more so the case for women, especially when it comes to hormones. Anything where it doesn't fit within, oh, your cortisol levels are fine, you're fine.
Right.
Your estrogen levels are a little bit higher, you've got PCOS, you're fine. Everything is so black or white, and females' hormones are just so complex and so intricate that it doesn't make much sense for so many people when they go there and they come back so deflated and defeated. And so I've also come to really appreciate natural means of healing and the depths that we have to go to really understand the body. But you went from being a naturopathic doctor to also becoming a legend in the skincare world. So tell me how that connected. How is our skin connected to our gut health?
And that's what happened is that patients would come to see me, and my practice was in Vancouver, Canada. And then shortly after I was in London for 11 years. And
I didn't realize you were in London for 11 years.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I think our paths I think you had moved to LA by this time. But I was in London for 11 years and really changed the way people saw naturopathic medicine, because they have naturopaths there, but they don't have naturopathic doctors. We have different schooling. So we actually go to medical school. Okay. So I was one of the few naturopathic doctors in London. So it was really interesting for me to see women that were coming in, from Vancouver and then London. And I was getting the same reaction.
Wow.
Where as soon as I was treating the patient at the level of their gut, they were having friends tell them that they looked 5 to 10 years younger.
Wow.
So they would say to me, people are asking me what I'm doing. So I was like, but they're like, what can I do for my skin, Dr. Nigma? Because, okay, I feel great inside and my skin is improved, but I still need that extra bit. And I thought, I need to do inside out.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do it for myself because, I was in my 30s and going into my 40s. I need to do this. So I figured out an inside out plan for women and basically tried to create an individualized program for my patients, but then create something for the masses. So it was a fine juggling act.
You're a very good representation of what you do because your skin is phenomenal every time I see you. And so I feel like you definitely practice, and what you are talking about and what you believe in is such a great example. You are such a great example of that. And by the way, I forgot to mention, everyone, Dr. Nigma has an incredible book out called Younger Skin Starts in the Gut. And there's a 4-week program in there, right? To help you to eliminate any gut issues. But then also the benefit of that is great skin. And so definitely go and check that out. And are we allowed to say you have another potential book on the way? We have another book on the way, which I'm very excited about. But let's really get into it because I feel like people have so many questions about the skin. So how, you mentioned that your patient said that they looked 20 years younger, 10 years younger. What is the link between gut health and premature aging?
So your gut microbiota, you have 100 trillion bacteria in your gut.
Wow.
So it's like a whole universe in there on its own. There's the good ones, the bad ones, the ugly ones. There's like a whole thing going on. And you have, as soon as you eat something, Radhi, from the moment you eat it, you start digesting in your mouth. Think about gremlins. Did you ever, or are you too young for that?
No, I know the gremlins. Yeah.
Do you remember the gremlins and you feed them after midnight, or if they get wet, they go crazy? Well, imagine that in your gut. So imagine feeding them sugar, dairy, gluten, alcohols, wines, whatever, different kinds of alcohols. They actually go crazy, and you feed them these bad foods or these foods that are inflammatory, and they don't act the way they're supposed to act. They're supposed to be protecting the gut. And most of your gut microbiota, the bacteria are anaerobic, which means that they don't need oxygen to survive. And so you want to have, there's different kinds of oxygen wanting, oxygen depriving, but they all work on something called pH. So the pH balance, and we hear about being too acidic, and there has to be acidity in the stomach, but then in the colon, it has to be alkaline. So there's different pHs, and the bacteria then thrive based on that pH. Now, what changes the pH is when you eat different kinds of foods, when you're lacking a diversity of plants, you're eating too much heavy in the meat kingdom, or you're eating too much sugar. That causes chaos in there, and you get those gremlins alive, throwing plates around and destroying the gut microbiome. And when that happens, you lose your nutrients, you lose your antioxidants that your body needs in order to thrive. So it's coming from the gut.
Right. And so then is inflammation also linked to an acidic environment in the gut? So do they come hand in hand generally, or are they two separate issues?
Well, you're right. They do come hand in hand, but the pH changes as you go down through the digestive system.
Right.
I don't know if people know this, but the actual stomach area where the pH is has to be really acidic.
Yeah, they got to break it all down.
Right?
Yeah.
They've got to break it all down. And what else do they have to do? They have to annihilate any kind of bad bacteria. So say you and I ate something at a restaurant, and there was a bacteria on there that was going to cause problems for food poisoning, and you had more stomach acid than I did.
Yeah.
You're younger than I am, so chances are you have better stomach acid. Then you'd be able to kick that food poisoning versus I would get it because I'm not annihilating that microbe that I ingested. The third thing that the stomach acid does is it increases B12 absorption.
Oh.
So it has something called intrinsic factor. So again, if you're not having the right pH in your stomach, it's going to affect everything, all the way trickling down to the small intestine, the motor migratory complex in the small intestine that gets messed up when the pH changes.
Okay, so tell us some of the best foods, or like give me your top 5 foods that you incorporate in your life every day to feed your gut microbiome, which obviously then leads to healthier skin.
Yeah, so prebiotics are really good to take in, like we have sauerkraut, cabbage, kimchi. They can be gas forming as well, especially if you're not used to it. You might have your neighbors move away from you. If you're doing that. I don't know if you've ever...
It's not first date food, okay?
It's definitely not first date. It's true. And incorporating those into your diet, I think on a daily basis is a good idea. Anything warmed and cooked, rich and mainly plant-based.
Right.
And your book is a really good example. All the recipes in your book are so good. My mom's coming to town, and I'm going to have her help me make some of your recipes. I've made a few, but some of the recipes in your book, those are really good choices for gut health. And really thinking about people who have poor gut or poor digestion, stay away from salads and cold foods because they're really hard to digest. And also there's going to be a shocker, maybe not for you, but garlic. It's a really tough one. So I know you asked me for the things that help, but like warming foods, plant-based foods are really good. Kimchi, sauerkraut, those kinds of prebiotics.
Yeah, and it really is just what you said earlier. It's variety. Like you have so many different variants of microbiome in your stomach, which means to feed the healthy bacteria, the different types, you need to be having different types of foods that feed those different types of bacteria. And so I think people get used to having the same foods over and over again. We're all culprits of it. You have the dishes you love making. You have the ingredients you're used to buying. But I always say to people, like, look at what season it is. Look at what's available. Because I think the problem sometimes is that our supermarkets have too many things that run throughout the year that aren't actually supposed to. And so you end up eating the same thing where maybe those squashes are not actually in season right now and your gut's not meant to be eating them right now. And so I think a big part of it is pay attention to what's seasonal where you're living. And also just pick like 1 or 2 new things every week to incorporate into your meal, into your diet. There's that new, I think, is it a government thing? But like the points for fruits and vegetables? Have you heard about that? They're called like plant points. And so it's saying trying to hit 30 plant points. I think it's 30 plant points every single week. So it's 30 different types of fruits or vegetables or herbs in your diet. And I was like, that's a great way of putting it.
That is. It's such a smart way. And I'm so glad you brought up the seasonal eating because that's really, really important.
Yeah.
Like as we get into the winter, you know, squash and there's the beautiful colors and in these vegetables are rich in antioxidants that are really going to support the gut lining and help your gut lining, because that's a really big one. Your gut lining will determine how quickly you age.
Wow. Your gut lining will determine how quickly you age. And so really, so much of what we need to focus on for our external body is linked to our gut health. And so focusing on that before you're even thinking about what facial you're going to get is probably a good place to start.
Think about the gut lining. It's only one cell thick or thin rather. And so it's like a double-ended sword. It's like it's thin enough to get the nutrients in, but thick enough to keep the bad guys out.
Yes.
So that gut lining will determine, leaky gut we've heard about.
Yes.
So if you have leaky gut, you're increased risk for, intestinal permeability, infection, bloating, gas, constipation, diarrhea, all those things are, you can say that there could be a leaky gut situation.
And you mentioned meat in there, and obviously, I'm plant-based, but I'm always interested to know if people have studies or facts about what is the link between eating red meat or eating meat and your skin or gut health.
Absolutely. I think there's so many things when you talk about meat. There's an energetic factor of the animal. There's a digestive ability. You need a ton of enzymes to digest meat. It's so hard to digest. And I think that, while some people do really well on like a high protein animal diet, I see a lot of inflammation.
Interesting.
So I feel like if you're gonna eat meat, look at it as a plant-based diet and lower the amount of meat intake.
Right.
Because you can find protein from so many other sources.
So many.
It's just about doing it right. And your book taught me that a bit, like I knew that, but I've now been incorporating some of your recipes and it's really been helpful.
You're the sweetest. By the way, you just have to bring your mum over here and I'll just cook for her.
Oh my.
That's what you need to do. Don't open the book and be like, Mum, make this for me. Just be like, Mum, we're going to go to Radhi's and she's going to cook for us.
Oh, she's going to love that. She's going to love it because you're a great cook.
Oh, thank you.
You really are. I've tried a lot of your food.
Oh, you're the best.
It's delicious.
You're so sweet. Okay, so let's say everyone's eating all the fruits, the vegetables, all the good foods that they need to be eating for their gut. What's your view on supplements? Should people be taking supplements every single day? Are there gut supplements that people should be having on a daily basis? Give us a rundown of your view on supplements.
I think, unfortunately, we've hit a point where there's not enough nutrients in our food to get all of your nutrients we need. We need enough nutrients to deal with the stress that, we're dealing with today, hormonal changes, environmental toxins. So supplements are very good, but I feel like cycling them sometimes is important based on your needs. So I think that's where naturopathic doctors really do a good job of assessing you, looking at your bloods. For example, vitamin D, we're coming into winter, right? So we want to load up on the vitamin D because we're not getting exposed to so much sun. And some of us, like myself, who I never try to sit in the sun because I don't want my skin to age prematurely, will need more vitamin D, especially darker skin tones require more vitamin D intake. So I think it's about, just like you said, seasonal eating. I feel like supplements are the same.
Right.
And getting the right advice for you, I think is a good investment to go to someone who really can look at your labs and can tell you like, okay, here's what we're going to do for the next 3 months. We're going to see how you feel, recheck your bloods or redo some other tests depending on what your symptoms are, and then go from there. But having said that, if you're vegan, then being on a B complex is important to do all around, just so you're getting all your nutrients.
Yeah, I do. I think that's such an important point that you touched on, because I find that there's so much information about supplements right now, and it's getting more and more, and there's different types and, different brands. I think the problem is there's not much education around supplements. And I know one of my friends in London, she actually was struggling with sleep. And so she started taking some supplements that people recommended. She ended up going to the doctor. She had triple the amount of one nutrient that she needed that was actually stopping her from sleeping. She had basically gotten insomnia, and I can't remember, I wish I could remember exactly which. Was it zinc? Was it... There was a supplement that she was... Could it have been B12?
It could have been if she was taking too much of it at night.
Yes. So I think what had happened was she was taking a huge dosage of it, And then she was getting insomnia from it, and she didn't put the 2 and 2 together. So whatever this supplement was, she was taking so much of it, it actually created toxicity in her body. Now that's an extreme situation.
Right.
But I do think that there is, everyone's like, take a vitamin D, take a B12, take a this. But what you said about go get yourself assessed, because what your friend, what your mum, what your aunt's taking is not going to be what your body may need. And so you may not even have the ability to absorb those nutrients right now. So you need to get your gut checked, and then you need to get your levels checked, and then figure out what supplements you should be taking. And honestly, I think that's the same thing with Ayurvedic herbs, like with ashwagandha and things like that. They don't necessarily need to be taken every day. But if you find yourself in stressful periods, take it for 3 months, see how you feel. I think we're used to just popping those pills in the morning, that make us feel like we're doing something for our health. But I think it's so important that these vitamins are actually like medicine for us too. And so you have to be so careful with which ones you're taking, and get assessment before you decide to just take them years on end.
Have you heard of the MTHFR gene?
No, tell me.
So this gene is, if you have a double positive to this MTHFR gene, then you can have increased risks of not being able to absorb folate. And so therefore, if you're doing too much B12, you can mask a folate deficiency, and vice versa. So again, it comes down to testing individually. Like, I have a positive and a negative SNP for this particular gene. So I know I need to take B12 folate very often. And also I take it with alongside other B vitamins, because B vitamins are like a big happy family. They need to be taken together. So just to remember, if you're just taking B12, it's not a big happy family. You need B1, B2, B12, B6, folate.
Right.
So you need the family as a unit to take together, because they all work synergistically. So
please.
So again, with the MTHFR, is super important to get things like that tested if you're really keen.
And people wouldn't know. People just wouldn't know unless someone like you tells them. Are there any specific supplements you think are a generic thing that people can be taking to support their gut or skin health? Or would you say it is really just very specific?
It's a good question. I think generally speaking, I've measured so many patients over the last 20 years, and I've used different labs, not just the conventional labs that are out there that really don't tell you the proper reference ranges for B12. I think the reference ranges are larger than they are in the blood.
Right.
So it can make it look like you're taking too much B12 and freak you out. But remember, B12 is water soluble. So it really can't do a ton of harm unless you're taking barrels of it. So I would say the one thing that I see in almost everyone benefit is a B complex.
Okay, good. So that's a useful one. If you're going to take anything, grab a B complex. You have spoken about perimenopause lately quite a lot on your social media, and I would love to hear your experience, but also any advice that you could give to people that are going through it, or symptoms that can help you to recognize that. Because I feel like I'm new to the term of perimenopause, and I feel like a lot of people are. You hear menopause, but perimenopause is something that I'm hearing more and more now.
And there's even perimenopause.
Oh my gosh. Here we go. Give me all of them. Give me the peri, and the perimenopause. Give me the lowdown on it.
Because the symptoms start before your period stops. Wow. And so, women I'm seeing women in their 20s with low progesterone, really, really low progesterone. And as a result, they're having problems sleeping. They're having similar symptoms to menopausal women, but they haven't quite stopped their period yet. So, at least in menopause, the period is stopped and you're not getting the chi sucked out of you, right? But, you have these younger women in their 20s experiencing this, and it really boils down to cortisol and stress. I feel like there's a lot of stress, with social media. I know you talk about a lot of that on your Instagram, which I think is super important, like putting down your phone. But do we do that?
I know.
And can we do that? And even for, people in their 20s, their university.
It's worse and worse, isn't it?
They need their computers to do their schoolwork or to do their job, or, so it's getting worse and worse. And what is that cortisol? How is that cortisol impacting our hormones? It's massively impacting our hormones. I'm seeing women going into perimenopause in their 30s.
Wow.
And partly, skipped periods, night sweats, fatigue, any issues you're having in your current menstrual cycling periods is going to be like a kind of like a sign of what your menopause is going to look like.
Right.
So you have to start taking care of your hormones now before you hit the menopause.
And what does that look like for someone who's trying to prevent, let's say they haven't hit perimenopause or menopause? What are some of the things that we can do to really protect ourselves, or you can't protect yourself from getting it, but to lessen the effects of menopause?
So think about it. How do hormones get out of our body? We pee it out, we poo it out, and we sweat it out, and we bleed it out, right? So those are the ways we get rid of the dirty hormones, I call them.
Right.
And these hormones need to be cleaned. So how do they get cleaned? Plant-based diet, really good diet, also enhancing your liver's ability to detoxify, because the liver 100% clears hormones. So I had a patient yesterday, for example, and she just, I'm writing my second book right now, but she said something really interesting. She said, Dr. Nigma, I started taking the liver herbs that you gave me because I was getting all these night sweats and, all these menopausal symptoms, brain fog. And she said, I would take these herbs and the glutathione and all the rest of it, and the hot flashes would disappear. And I said, because you're cleaning your hormones. And I said, were you constipated during that time? And she goes, as a matter of fact, I was. So it all boils down again to how well are we eliminating those dirty hormones out of our body. And when we don't eliminate them, they recycle and they create more communication errors.
Yes.
And that's where the hormonal imbalances happen.
Yeah, I don't think we think about cleaning our hormones, do we? And I think the liver is almost overlooked unless you think you have an alcohol problem, or, where the liver is not something we really think about cleansing. And every time I've gone to a naturopathic doctor or a homeopathic doctor, the first thing they say, your liver is fatigued. Like everything is about, but they focus so heavily on the liver, or you need to support your liver. And they say that overheated liver in Ayurveda, they call it an overheated liver. Your liver is overheated. It's not able to work as hard because of the inflammation that we put into our body, the foods that we're eating, it's causing inflammation. And it's overheating your liver. And if your liver is overheated, it's not able to work as efficiently. And so do you know any good foods that people should be eating to support their liver health?
Oh, absolutely.
Come on, hit us with some.
Let's get, so artichokes are fantastic.
Ooh.
They really, really clean out the liver. And any sorts of fiber in the diet, any, foods that are rich in fiber, because you've got to clean the liver and then you've got to sweep it out.
Okay.
Right? So it's like cleaning the house, but leaving the dust in a corner, right? We need to get rid of that dust and eliminate it from the body. So it's always going to be about bowel movements. And as we get older, the elasticity in our intestinal, we're all made up of tubes, right? Our nervous system, our gut. These tubes, the elasticity need to be really nice and strong. So it's all about supporting that, having things that are warming. Think about it. When you're constipated, everything is backing up.
Yeah.
Right. And when things back up, it also affects your neurotransmitters, right? Your feel-good hormones. And your feel-good hormones are 90% of them, serotonin, are found in the gut.
Yes.
So everything changes as a result. Mood,
energy,
elasticity. It all boils down to pooping.
Okay, great. So artichokes.
Artichokes and fiber.
Okay.
Anything that's rich in fiber, soluble and insoluble fibers. Lots of fruits and vegetables are rich, and steaming them will help you digest them better as well.
Yes, definitely. I've noticed that whenever my gut's been not feeling great, the last thing I need is raw food.
Right.
So steaming your vegetables, it's almost like cooking them a little bit before your stomach has to cook them and digest them down. It just makes it so much easier to digest. I've also heard steaming your vegetables helps the nutrients become more available.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. And I often make a soup out of the vegetables. So I keep like the broth, or if I'm steaming artichokes or anything that I'll drink the broth after.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. Is there anything you drink or eat? Do you have anything that you have on a daily basis that you're like, I have to have this for my skin? every single day for you personally?
Oh gosh. Honestly, my vitamin C. I have to have vitamin C every day.
Your vitamin C is the tastiest vitamin C I've ever had. It tastes like a little mocktail that I'm having every morning.
I know. It's
so good.
That's why I created it, because I kept checking my vitamin C levels and I was so low. And every patient I check is low because we don't make vitamin C. My cute little dog, Dante, he makes vitamin C because dogs make vitamin C, but we don't. And the more adrenally driven we are, because you and I are very driven and
Adrenal fatigue.
Adrenal fatigue. What do we need? We need vitamin C for our adrenals.
Oh, you need vitamin C for your adrenals.
Yes, ma'am. Vitamin C it is.
Oh, I didn't realize that. And so
Yes.
to support your adrenal glands, you recommend, so vitamin C is the vitamin
huge.
for that.
A lot of people don't think of vitamin C as an adrenal support, but it's huge. And it also, for me, it helps my skin collagen. It helps with wound healing. So if I nick myself or get a scratch, that heals much quicker when I have my vitamin C. So I think the vitamin C is for me, every day I have vitamin C on a daily.
Okay, that's really good to know. I love that you talk about all these different faces. You have sugar face,
Yes.
wine face, dairy face, and gluten face. Now, please, I love these. Tell me what a sugar face looks like.
Okay, so it's not a sweet face either, Radhi. It's not as cute and sweet as we like it to be. So it's like this kind of, think of sugar and sagging.
Oh.
Okay, so if somebody's skin is sagging, it's sort of sallow, gray, and we know that sugar causes like breakdown of collagen. So anyone who has like pores in their skin, a high amount of porous skin, that can be a sugar face basically, and also acne.
Oh.
Widespread acne on the face because sugar feeds those bad bacteria that then start to act up. Remember the gremlins?
I do.
They show up on the face.
The acne is gremlins on the face, isn't it? I actually have given up sugar, and it's been about a month now, like fully taken processed sugar out of my diet. The only thing I have are fruits. I don't even have dates and stuff as part of it. When I tell you the difference it has made, not just to my skin, like remember I was getting all those little dots on the top of my head, what did you call it?
Dermatitis.
The dermatitis. I was getting tiny little dots on the top of my forehead, and then also getting them perioral dermatitis all the way around my mouth. All of that has completely gone. And when I tell you it was within 5 days of me giving up sugar that the stuff on my head went away. And it has not come back since. And usually it was kind of cycling, wasn't it?
Yes.
I kept getting it during my period. I would get it, or it would just randomly show up. And honestly, I was at a point in my life where I was eating more sugar than I ever had. I think I was quite stressed out. My way to satisfy that is like after every meal, I'm like, oh, you can have a little bit of sweet.
Right.
Just have a little bite of vegan
I deserve
Nutella.
it.
Yeah. It's not gonna, like, just a little bit after every meal. It's fine.
Yes.
But what I realized was I wasn't able to actually function without it. That if I chose not to have it, it was like a craving that I couldn't satisfy.
Right.
And I really don't like being in control of, like, I like being in control of myself. That's why I don't drink and why I don't do other things. But one thing that was controlling me was my sugar. And so I was just like, I have to try. And honestly, day one was the hardest.
Yes.
After day one, because usually I would fail on day one. After day one, I was like, oh, I could do day two. Oh, I can do day three. And it's pretty much been a month. But the difference.
I can see it.
Can you?
It looks amazing.
The difference that it has made in my skin, but also in my cravings. Like, I've increased the protein as well since I've stopped eating sugar. But I never thought I could be in a phase in my life where I didn't crave something sweet. And I never understood when people talk. I thought they were just like binging secretly. When someone told me that they don't want dessert, I'd be like, what do you mean? You don't, how can you resist? I didn't know how someone could resist. And I just have to say that it is not something that you miss when you take out. I'm like, okay, at one point I'll add it back in, maybe have a bit here and there. But to be dependent on it, it honestly felt like I was addicted to something in a serious way. Right. But the skin, what a difference.
It's a game changer.
Yeah.
And I can see it.
Can you? Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks. Well, it makes a difference to the puffiness on my face as well, which brings me on to wine face. Tell me about wine face.
So wine and sugar, right? The same thing.
Right.
But wine is even more difficult because you have these, wine triggers a lot of damage to the liver as well, and also to the neurological function of the body in general. So it causes inflammation. So you'll see a lot of redness on the skin. You see a lot of that rosacea type skin, and also you see the wrinkles right in the liver meridian on the Chinese medicine map on the face. And so I would see that in patients a lot that would indulge in wine on a daily basis. So, and if you do it on a occasional basis, you'll even see it the next day. I know when I've had wine in the past, I wake up the next day, I'm like, oh, I have wine face. All right.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot to get rid of the wine face because you've got to you've got to do a peel to restore the skin. I mean, it's an expensive habit.
Yeah.
So, what you did in 5 days with sugar, that's how quickly the body heals when you stop eating these things.
All right. So that's wine face. Tell us about dairy face.
Okay. Dairy face. And I don't know if you remember the days when you were eating dairy.
No, I do. That's why I'm so excited to hear this.
So the dairy, for me, dairy is a devil. It causes so much inflammation. So think of the sinus bases. They're so small. Yeah. So when you have mucus forming foods like dairy, they cause congestion in the sinus bases. So what does that congestion look like on the face? Puffiness, darkness under the eyes. There's this little puff right in the inner eye that you'll see quite often. And that puff is like inflammation, and that's coming from the dairy.
I have absolutely seen dairy face on many people, and I'm like, guys, come on, I'm telling you, it's dairy.
Did you know that it was dairy?
Yes, I did, mainly because what I found is, especially in our Asian culture, I don't know whether you've noticed this, but South Asians, a lot of people are actually allergic to dairy.
Yes, they are.
That, and also a lot of my Black friends growing up, they had a lot of dairy allergies in their families. And so what I found was, I noticed that a lot of people would get eczema in Indian culture, South Indian culture. And the main thing that we were eating was so much dairy. And so I definitely knew the link between eczema and dairy, but it makes so much sense with the puffiness and the congestion around here.
Yes.
I definitely remember having that. I was way more mucousy when I used to eat dairy. And actually, I remembered the wine face. My friend in college, he would always turn bright red when he would have alcohol, bright red. And he was Asian. And I heard that they sometimes can have
enzyme.
Yeah, they can't
alcohol
digest
dehydrogenase. Yeah.
Right. So you could know, even if he was like, no, I'm not drunk. I'm like, your face is literally bright red right now. You've definitely had a drink. So that's a very telling factor. The last one is gluten face, or as I like to call it, carb face.
Okay, I like that too.
Yeah, go on, hit me with the carb face.
So the gluten phase, I mean, gluten is not in all the carbs, right? So that's a thank goodness for that. Otherwise, we can't do without carbs. Gluten is really hard on the body. And I know when we hear about gluten, we think about celiac disease, but there are a lot of people roaming around that don't have celiac disease, but the gluten is causing intestinal permeability. And so when I look at the gluten phase, it's like the puffiness. It's like, it's kind of like yeast rising in bread. If you think about it.
Yes, I have experienced that because my other vice after sugar is pizza.
Okay.
And so I definitely know it's pizza face. I know when I've had a whole pizza or like pasta, something that's very gluten-y and carby, but has gluten in it. The next morning I'm like puff face, I'm like full on Puff Daddy going on. When I look in the mirror, I'm like, how puffy could my face get? And it's so true. The puffiness under your eyes, your cheeks, everything feels very swollen. But that's definitely a good definition of gluten face. It's very puffy. Thank you for breaking those faces down. It's really good to know, because I think when you hear them in this way, where it's relatable, you start to notice the things that are actually causing issues in your body, and your skin and your physical body are showing you the symptoms of what's happening inside. We're just not used to listening or seeing them. And so these little things, when you can put them into fun ways like this, it's like, oh, okay, today I can see that I'm actually reacting to wine or sugar or dairy or gluten. And I would say, as funny as it is, it's actually a really great way to know what you need to start either removing from your diet or reducing in your diet. And I think it's really important because I noticed with sugar, I kept ignoring it. I was like, no, it's not the sugar. It can't be. Let me just eat another cake. It's fine. But it definitely was the sugar. In all your years of doing this, what's one thing that you found as a resounding thing that people are doing wrong when it comes to their skincare? Is there anything that sticks out to you?
I think people are using too many products. And I'm seeing so many reactions. And so I think less is more. And really the things that matter the most are going to be, getting a good night's sleep, making sure that your sleep hygiene is optimal.
Yes.
And also like just using a few products, not using like 10 steps.
Yeah.
You don't need 10 steps. And just having it as a routine where you're using really good products that are, tested by a doctor, somebody that understands skincare and understands like there's a holistic part of this. It's not just slapping on stuff on your skin. It's an inside job. So knowing that and using really easy products to use that are like, formulated and, understood in terms of their ingredients, in terms of efficacy. I think that's important.
Yeah, I think about my grandma who is over 90 now, and less is more. Let me tell you, she has used maybe one product on her face throughout her whole life. I've given her some, and now maybe she uses like a little bit more like a fancier oil than she used to, but nothing, she doesn't have a cleanser, a toner, a hyaluronic acid, or like all these. She's just been simple with her skincare. She washes her face with water and then she'll put on her oil, and that's pretty much it. And I just think, you don't have to get that simple, but for someone who's 90 and looks like she is in incredible skin shape, I always look at her and I'm like, yeah, you know what? Do I really need to go get that? Or do I really need to be doing all these things? I think you're so right. There's too many products out there. So on that note, what would you say, what does your morning skincare routine look like? Or what's an ideal skincare routine for someone in the morning?
Yeah, so I created my own skincare because I wanted the best. And so I use my cleanser number 1 that is rich in zeolites and come from volcanic ash that actually really clean the skin. And I added some hyaluronic in there and glycolic to really do some very gentle like cleaning of the skin, just like you do the tongue scraping.
Yes.
You'd be shocked how much dirt comes off the skin.
Yep.
So cleaning your skin in the morning and in the evening with my cleanser number 1. And then I created a beautiful serum that I use morning and evening, my serum number 1. And then a cream that I will launch hopefully soon.
Ooh.
I use on top of that. So I layered the serum and the cream together, and then I wear an SPF, and that's it.
Yeah, so that's really a 3 to 4 step thing.
And it takes seconds. And it's really about also massaging the skin and moving that lymph. So if you have had dairy or gluten and, you couldn't help it, it was an amazing pizza, do a good facial massage, and just sort of move that lymph around, especially with your skincare. And that's what I do to like just move the circulation.
Are you a fan of any skin tools like gua sha?
Yes.
What do you recommend?
I love gua sha. The thing is that like, how does the lymph move in your body? It doesn't have a valve or like, a blood, like our blood circulatory system has a pump, but the lymphatic doesn't. So gua sha is really important. Self massage is super important. It's really underrated.
I think so too.
Right?
Yes.
It really works really, really well.
Well, I noticed it even more, when I come to get facials from you. When you're doing that from my nasal passages all the way out, I'm like, gosh, that's a bit painful. And it's because I have so much buildup of fluid that's between under my eyes and my nose. And so I've started learning with all my skincare now, I just kind of massage out. And I notice a significant difference in one, obviously my nasal area, but also in my skin's tautness. Like how tight my skin feels. Ends up feeling so much better when you end up massaging all that. And at the end of the day, it's toxins that you're massaging out of your face.
You are. And also like, your skin, as you get older in your 30s and 40s, you don't turn over the cells anymore as much as you used to. So using a really good cleanser that's going to really clean the skin without stripping it.
And what about a PM, a nighttime routine?
I do the same thing in the morning as in the evening. The only one thing I add for the evening is I've come out with a new vitamin C serum. And obviously it's not out yet, but it will be soon. I use it as a nighttime treatment. Obviously I've been using it because I have the samples.
Yes.
I'll have to give you some. They're really good. And it really brightens the skin. It like really gives a nice glow and any sort of uneven skin tone or, we live in California. So the sun is always it's popping, even though it's beautiful, but it can cause for our skin because of Indian descent can cause hyperpigmentation.
Okay, I have to ask, all these products that say like anti-wrinkle or like anti-aging, anti-everything, what qualifies them to say anti-wrinkle? And two, are there really products out there that can reduce wrinkles in the way that they say they can? And if so, what are they? I'm like, what is it?
It's a good question. Can anything really get rid of your wrinkles? No. Can you prevent them? Yes. Part of why you get wrinkles, though, think about it, is your facial expressions.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right? Yeah. So part of it is if you're making that same expression and you have a wrinkle that you don't like, it's because you're making that expression. But that wrinkle is lovely. We also have to start looking at wrinkles like I've earned that wrinkle. You know what I mean? I'm 52 now. I've earned that wrinkle and it's fine. It's not a bad thing. I think the key with looking optimal and beautiful is having clear skin, clear, beautiful skin. And the wrinkles are fine. But if you're really a wrinkle tied to wrinkles, then really, the more hydration you give your skin, obviously things like hyaluronic acid, we've heard different molecular weights of hyaluronic acid are important, small, medium, and large. Most companies only put one molecular size in there. Yeah. And then plant stem cells that are beautiful. And they're in all my serums because they're really, really important at protecting the skin against harsh environments. Because our skin is, look at us, we're exposed to the environment all the time.
Yes.
So it's all about protecting, preserving, and hydrating.
Yeah, hydration makes so much sense to me. I notice my skin just shrivels up, doesn't it? If you don't have enough hydration, your cells are not hydrated. Right. There's no plumpness in your cells, and then there's no plumpness in your skin. And so I'm a big advocate for letting your wrinkles be wrinkles just because it's just a great sign that you're aging and getting wiser. But I do think that to have healthy skin means that there is enough in Ayurveda, we call it ojas. Like there's enough vitality in your skin. Like, and what does vitality look like? It looks like vibrance and for your skin, bounciness and vitality. When you see it, it's like that glow. But what does that glow actually mean? It's not necessarily from a highlighter. It's literally from in having enough hydration that is pouring through your body so that each cell is working at its optimal. Each cell is as hydrated as it can be. And it, like you said, it's inside out, but that's really what it is. It's creating a system where you realize when I'm eating these things, they are either feeding my cells in a positive way or they're depleting my cells. And as we're growing older, our cells are aging. And so how do we support our aging cells in the best way possible? And I think I noticed 1 or 2 days of hydration of where I don't hydrate myself properly, not just my skin, my energy levels, my tiredness, my focus, my attention. It's like you're literally just starving your cells from an essential nutrient that it needs to function. And so I think that's very important.
And you brought up such a good point, like dehydration also makes you crave sugar. Did you know that?
Yes. Now I sip on my water all day. All day. I have to.
Yeah. So, you're craving this because you're dehydrated, actually, because your insulin is not working optimally. So it's all about making that insulin work as well and sensitize that insulin. Yes. And hydration is one of the most important things.
Tell me about facials. Now, there is a vampire facial. There are all the facials that exist. Yes. Are there weekly, we talked about morning, we talked about evening. Tell me about a weekly thing that somebody should be doing. Should people be one, doing masks weekly? And two, if they're doing facials, what type of facial do you recommend?
It depends on your skin type. Like if you have acneic skin, you'll have to do more peels. If you have mature, dry skin, you'll have to do peels less often, but you'll be wanting to focus on hydrating your skin. So it really depends on your skin type.
Yeah.
For me, I like to do my own facials. I do radio frequency. I have a new machine coming out.
Ooh.
It's called the Time Lift by Dr. Nigma.
Amazing.
So it has this infusion of nutrients that are going to clean the skin first, because if you don't have a clean canvas, you can't put the nutrients in. And then I put in these various plant peptides, and then I always end with radio frequency. And radio frequency increases the collagen production, and the treatment starts to work even after your treatment is ended. Like it continues over the next 3 to 6 weeks. I don't know if you've noticed, after you get a face treatment with me, you get this like really nice defined jaw, and it stays for a bit, and then we eat sugar, and then we sleep funny, and then our collagen, it's just about maintenance. And I think everybody should have their own routine, and I don't think there's like a must do. And some people are luckier than others. They can get by without doing a lot. But I think like you said, the oja, as you said, right?
Yeah, ojas.
So the ojas, is that how you say it? That's like the nectar, right?
Yes.
Like the pure, clean, I read that in your book, and I think that's the key to everything.
Yes.
And I think that all you do on top is just going to be additional.
Cherry on the top.
It's cherry on the top.
You said the frequency. What did you
radio
call it?
Frequency.
Radio frequency. Is that the same as infrared? Because there's so much about infrared light therapy.
Yeah, so that's a bit different.
Okay.
You can do LED and infrared.
Yes.
Those are things you can actually do at home.
And what do they do? What does the LED and infrared actually do?
It's NASA technology. So a lot of NASA astronauts used it when they were traveling to space to prevent muscle atrophy. So what they also found is that it encourages collagen production.
Wow.
So you can actually use like a nice LED mask or an LED unit. And there are not that many that are FDA approved. So look for the companies that are FDA approved, because those are the ones that are the safest, and the ones that you're going to get the best results from. I love using LED. It's amazing.
I've seen it everywhere, and I always wonder, I'm like, what does it really do for me? But that makes sense. I know you said you mentioned you use the same products morning and evening. I'm asking these questions because I get so many skincare questions, and I think the details are really important. Sure. Do you do skincare cycling? Like, do you change your products with the seasons, or is your skin changes, or is it okay if something's working for you to just keep using it?
I think that's I think it's really, you can try a different product from time to time, but I feel like the skin gets irritated if you switch too much.
Okay.
But if something's working for you, I sort of look at that as, I've used the same thing over and over again, and I've tried other products.
Yeah.
And
Why change if it's working?
If it's working, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
Right?
Collagen, we were just speaking about that. What are good foods to eat to sustain and maintain the collagen in our skin?
So, we do have things that are plant-based that are helping with collagen production. Excuse me. I'm going to have some Junie. So there are different ways. We know the bone broth from chicken has been really helpful at encouraging collagen.
Interesting.
And also I use a collagen powder that I've created that has Natacol collagen, that has the most studies than any other marine collagen. So it comes from fish.
Right.
And fish skins are really rich in collagen production and into the skin.
Right.
So I think, and also treatments like microneedling improve collagen production and elasticity. But I think the really key, it boils down when we look at all these things, collagen, and should I take this and should I take that? It's keeping that one cell, that intestinal lining, as functional and as pampered as possible. And we can get things from cabbage that are rich in glutamine that actually support that gut lining. Because if you have that gut lining supported, you're going to get the nutrients coming in, and then you're not going to have to take a collagen supplement.
Yeah.
Because you're already supporting the gut from within.
Thank you for that. I have a few things that I'm going to throw at you and tell me whether they're fads or whether you really think they work. Okay. So one of the things is sea moss.
Okay. So I don't know if you've tried it before, but
I have tried it. I went through a phase of having it every single morning.
I haven't seen any clinical efficacy. I think it's a fad.
Okay. Yeah, because I heard when I started eating it, it was because it said it was so rich in all the vitamins and minerals and everything that your skin and your body needs to just stay healthy. So I was like, I'll get on that. Bought mine from Erewhon. Was taking like a spoonful of it every day. I wouldn't say that it did anything. I don't feel like I had it long enough to see an effect, but I also didn't feel a negative effect. So I was like, all right, let me just keep piling it on. But good to know. Fad. Liquid chlorophyll.
Yes, I would say it's there's a lot of benefits to chlorophyll, and especially people who are sushi eaters. There's a lot of mercury in fish, so the chlorophyll is really important at binding to that.
Red light therapy, we spoke about.
Absolutely, 100%.
Not a fad. NAD.
Okay. Yeah. So there's NAD and there's NMN, and it's a big long story. NMN converts into NAD. It does work.
Okay.
It does do your body good. But I think being assessed properly, because it's not cheap.
Right.
So if you want to try it and you can afford to try it, go ahead and try it. But I am doing evaluations with patients before giving them an NAD drip because of the fact that if you do have cancer cells in your body, you should not be taking NAD because it actually promotes those cells from undergoing mitosis and replicating. So they're contraindicated in people who have been diagnosed with cancer or who have cancer and don't know you have cancer.
Wow.
So there are some, there's some caution there, but I'm really, looking forward to the future and more research in using NMN and NAD. So that's something that I think that's, stay tuned.
That's so good to know, because let me tell you how many times I get targeted with NAD adverts on TikTok. But also they're not telling people the other side of it. So I think that's so important. Korean skincare. What is it about Korean skincare that everyone's obsessed with? I need to know. Tell me.
It's honestly, I'm not going to lie. I don't know a lot about the ingredients in the Korean skincare, but I think Korean people in general have incredible skin.
I know. I'm like,
genetically.
Is it the skincare or is it them?
Yeah, like who is it?
Yeah,
right. Like the chicken or the egg. Which one is it? But I really think that they have looked at some ingredients that are different than some of the ingredients we're using here.
Yes,
and I think it's like we're all kind of doing the same thing, but we always have FOMO when it's in another country.
It's so true,
right?
Yeah, it's like everyone here is so intrigued about Ayurveda, but when people are living in India, they're like, what?
They're like, what? Whatever. That we do this every day.
Great.
Exactly.
Is Botox really for prevention?
Oh.
Or because let me tell you, the amount of my friends have told me, you know what, I'm getting Botox because it's for prevention. That's what I've been told.
I hear that all the time.
Is it for prevention? Yes or no? Is Botox for prevention?
So I'm going to say yes and no, and I'll tell you why.
Okay,
I'll tell you why. Because if you remember we talked about the expression, right?
Yes.
So if you're constantly making this expression, right, you're going to develop these lines, like my 2 lines. I try not to make that expression because I don't want these 11s to show up. And I don't like to do Botox.
Yes.
I do it maybe every 2 to 3 years and baby Botox, but I more importantly try not to make that frown. And so can it prevent it? Yeah, because if you do Botox, then you're going to freeze this area so you can't make that expression, right? So it trains you not to make the expression. So in that way, yes, it does prevent, but people who are overdoing it are starting to look funny. They're starting to look older.
Really? I didn't notice that in Hollywood at all.
We live in LA.
I did not. I've never seen anyone with bad Botox in LA. What?
Oops. The cat's out of the bag. Yes. So I think the Botox can be overdone, and I think it really ruins people's beautiful natural expressions. Like I can't tell if someone's mad at me or they're happy, right? It's like, and I think a lot of my patients are on TV, they're acting, they have to be able to have their expressions. Yes. So they're all about, give me Dr. Nigma treatments all day long. Yeah. The Botox is ruining my expression. So I would say that, it's a yes and no, answer. But don't listen, the ladies in your 20s and 30s, please take it easy on that.
Okay.
Because you'll see a picture of yourself before the Botox and after. And I promise you, when you're my age in your 50s, you're going to much prefer the picture of the no Botox.
Yeah. See, you know what? I'm so happy, so okay with everyone making their own decisions. Of course, no judgment. But I think my thing has always been, after living in LA, where to be honest, in London, I probably wouldn't have even heard about having Botox. Like where I grew up, you'd hear about it, but it's not something you'd even think about getting done.
Right.
After moving to LA, of course, like every other person is talking about it. And I came to the conclusion, because my friend just had it done, and he was like, God, why would you not just get it done? It's preventative. And I was like, you know what? The reason I wouldn't is because I know at some point in life, I'm going to have to understand that my body's aging. I would rather see my body aging gradually and gracefully than get to a point where when I stop doing all the Botox and I get to the age of 70 and 80 and I'm like, oh God, am I 70 and 80 now? Like suddenly the ball drops and you're like, oh, I'm actually getting old now. And sometimes it would be so much harder to deal with when you're that age and you haven't seen yourself grow old naturally, to then get hit by it at a point where you're like, actually, no more Botox is going to help me to look 20 again because I am 80. And so I think what really stops me from getting Botox or getting those type of treatments is, why do I want to have a midlife crisis at the age of 80 instead of just enjoying my life and appreciating the years that are coming and not worrying about like a line that's on my face? And look, I'm on camera a lot. And there are times I've seen, of course, from my 20s to now, of course, I've seen like when I smile in a picture, I do have lines around my eyes, or, oh, wow, I do have little frown things that have shown up, or, I've talked to you about my melasma that's coming up. But I'm like, how much am I going to focus on that rather than like the happiness I'm feeling in that picture?
Right.
Or like the fact that I want to do this job and I love sharing a lot of my life and a part of me with people. And so I think that's my thing. I'm like, I don't want to have a crisis later in life. I'd rather have mini crises as the years go on, every 10-year increments. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm getting 10 years older. This is what it looks like. And I'm going to work through it.
I couldn't agree with you more. Yeah. And I think women were just so pushed into this. Like there's such a, for us, it's a lot harder than it is for men. We have to, our hormones change, we have to look good, work, at the same time and be happy at the same time when our hormones are raging. It's like this expectation of what a woman should look like. And I think that we need to step away from that and we need to like live in our own skin and really care less about all of those things, because beauty really comes from within. Yeah. You can really see it in someone and we need to get back to that.
And I feel like the more it's embraced, it's like the more other people feel more comfortable doing it. And I really appreciate, I don't know whether you've seen Kate Winslet recently going on to podcasts and speaking about aging and how beautiful she thinks it is. And then Pamela Anderson going out with like no makeup and not doing any surgeries or anything to her skin anymore. And I'm just like, you know what? Let's make wrinkles sexy again. Okay, people. And it does not mean when you start getting wrinkles on your face, you are less attractive. And I think that is something that women really fall into. Unfortunately, men have it easy. Everyone's like, yes, silver fox. Look at that guy. Yeah, Richard Gere's getting better and better with age. Brad Pitt, what a stud. But as soon as women start aging, it's like, oh yeah, that's a grandma over there. I'm like, how has this happened? So I actually think it is more on us as women to show that, like these incredible women have done, where they're like, you know what, we're just gonna embrace it, because what am I saying to the generation below? What am I saying to
what message are you giving them? Right.
Exactly. And I think the more, like when I saw Pamela Anderson do that, I was like, she's on a red carpet, no makeup, like beautiful skincare. Alicia Keys, all she does is skincare. And I'm like, you know what? That has helped me and encouraged me to do the same and not want to go into the fads and the things that, I'm being encouraged to do. And so if I can be that person for somebody else, I'm like, you know what? I think I'd rather be that. And I'd rather share that message. But I also just want to say no judgment out there before anybody who's got Botox is like getting upset. But
absolutely. No judgment. It's just,
I'm just talking through my mindset of it. Because naturally you do have to go through those battles when you're living somewhere like this and make a decision on which way you want to go. So, okay, great. Botox, somewhat preventative, but not really. okay, we've spoken about oils. Now I'm really interested to hear your thing because my skin, I thought, loved oils. Like I would lather my face. I'd look like a glazed donut, like lathering myself in as many oils as possible because my dry skin really needed this, like I felt like I needed this thick nourishment. And oils was what I thought was working. Why are oils, like skin oils, not good for us to use?
Well, think of your skin like a raincoat, right? So if you put oil on top of a raincoat, what's going to happen?
The water won't,
It won't get in, right?
Yeah.
It's just going to sit on the top. And so if you wear that raincoat out and you're walking around, what's going to attach to that oil?
Dirt.
Exactly.
Dirt,
so you're basically blocking the channels in the skin for anything to get through.
Right.
And then you're also sending a signal to the skin saying, hey, listen, you don't need to make any more oil from the sebaceous glands. I've got you covered. And so the sebaceous glands start working in a wonky way. And then tie in the hormonal kick in, and the sebaceous glands go, well, wait, there's more hormone. I need to start increasing the oil production to kick out this dirt. And so you get this cyclical activity on the skin that actually makes everything worse. So when you take out oil from somebody, they're going to be very mad at you initially. They're going to say, my skin is super dry now, because you're used to that oil on the raincoat. It's slippery, it moves nicely. And then once it gets used to it and you start using things like hyaluronic acid, plant stem cells, and some really nice peptides that are like going to absorb into the skin and give you that natural glow and that support that you want from the oil, you won't need the oil anymore, but you'll have to do an oil skin fast. It'll take about 2 to 3 weeks, or maybe one, I call it a menstrual cycle, a whole cycle for women that are cycling. And then they'll get the benefits of it, and they'll stop breaking out because that oil is congesting the skin.
I have to say you are absolutely right, because I did stop. I stopped using thick oils on my skin. And at first my skin felt dry and I felt like I just had to keep trying to moisturize it. But now I wake up and my skin's not like thirsty for oil to be put onto it. And so one, obviously I increased the amount of water I was drinking, but now I actually have, like, I rarely use oils, maybe just once in a while to like for the smell of it and the feeling of it.
Put it on your body. Your body skin is fine, but the face skin is different.
Yeah, and I agree. I've had less breakouts since I've stopped using oil. And yeah, the dirt is so true. You don't realize how much you're accumulating on your skin because oil just attracts it. Even when you get a body massage and suddenly you're like, oh, I just feel really if you keep it on for too long. And oil doesn't really, unless it's a thin oil, what I realize, it just sits. It doesn't actually absorb. So it gives you this illusion of feeling like it's your skin is lubricated, but actually it's not actually penetrating the skin as well. So you're not actually getting hydrated when you're putting oils on.
This makes me so happy.
I know it does. I don't want to admit it, okay, but I have to.
I remember when I told you, you looked at me like,
really?
I saw these thoughts running through your brain. You're like, I can't use my oils anymore. I love my oils. But you know, it's only when you do it initially, it's tough. But then once, it's kind of like your sugar. You stop the sugar.
Exactly.
You know, when you stop these habits that you think are like,
it was part of like the luxury of it too. You know what? That's what I realized. When you're using these like scented oils or like these, there's something about it that was part of my like self-love routine. So now I still do my body massage with oils. But I've definitely taken it off my face. So that makes sense. The different types of masks that people have. So there's sheet masks. There are, the liquids that you can put on, the gel masks. Prefer any of them or?
I personally love the biocellulose sheet masks.
Oh, okay.
Because my sheet mask, what I love about it is the biocellulose. It pushes the ingredients in. So if you just put a regular sheet mask on, you lose a lot of those ingredients. Because again, the skin is it's hard for things to penetrate in. You have to keep it on for a bit and you have to have the right technology to push it in.
Right.
So I love those ones with biocellulose. I like some clay masks. Are very nice, that you can put on to like if you're having a breakout.
I was just going to say for acne.
Yes.
Clay masks are meant to be amazing for acne because they just kind of help to dry out all the sebum or the moistness that helps the bacteria grow.
Yeah, it's very detoxifying. So I do love those. I think, different strokes for different folks. I think that, there's a lot of great things out there. I mean, there's a lot out there, but, it's always good to like read the reviews, talk to your friend, and also we have different skin types. So
find out your skin type. I think that is a key before anybody tries any kind of skincare. Because you'll see something for oily skin, something for dry skin, something for acne prone skin, but like go somewhere and find out what is your skin type. Because I feel like there are more types than people think there are.
There are. And if you have very sensitive skin, you have to make sure you're using less than 3 ingredients in a product. Because otherwise you're going to react. Even if it's the best product in the world. I won't give my serum to somebody that's super, super sensitive because there's so many actives in there.
Right.
So just because it's a good product doesn't mean it's a good product for somebody that is super allergic or sensitive because it's going to make them worse.
Your top 3 worst ingredients that you've seen been put into skincare, like that people should really watch out for with generic skincare products that they're buying.
Okay, so yes, this is a good question. There is, parabens, of course, and estrogen mimicking compounds.
Ooh.
So when something is too high in soy, sometimes it can be, estrogen mimicking. So I'll see patients' blood results and their urine tests, and I'll see higher estrogens, and they're not taking estrogen. So some of these can come from skincare.
Oh, wow.
So there are some high sort of risks there. And I think the colors and the binders and the fillers and all of those kinds of things that have these strong toxic effects on the skin and actually on the liver if you take them, in high amounts, if you're putting it all over your body. So I think it's really important. There's so much though out there about clean, like what is clean.
Yes.
We've really hit that.
The labels be lying sometimes,
Yeah. So I think really, you have to be able to be discerning that way.
Last one, glass skin. Is it possible? I know it's more of a Korean skincare trend that we talked about. Are there certain things that can create that glass skin look, really and truly?
Absolutely.
You
absolutely.
kind of have the glass skin going there, I have to say. So we need to know what skincare you're using. I know it's your products, and then what makeup you're using too. So
I use lip tinted.
Do you?
Yes.
Yeah, she's, oh my God, the best. I think I'm wearing her gloss right now.
Yeah, I'm wearing all of it.
Yeah.
So I do love that makeup. I do think makeup that accentuates your features. But I think, really having a good skin hygiene routine.
I know. It really is about that.
Like you have to clean your skin, especially after you wake up in the morning. It's just like tongue scraping. You've got to do that.
Yeah.
You've got to clean your skin and using a really good serum on top and a moisturizer and sunscreen. I really don't think it's not that difficult. Yeah.
I have to say cleaning your skin is actually really underrated because I used to maybe cleanse like at night, but I wouldn't do it in the morning. And then I would start doing after my workouts and I was like, oh my God, the amount of stuff that comes out of my pores after I've done a workout, it's like I've been out in the dust. And so I think cleaning your skin, I've had way less breakouts since doing that. So cleansing almost once, twice, or even sometimes 3 times if you're working out in the morning, after your workout, and then at night makes such a difference. Do you exfoliate a lot or not really?
Well, the cleanser has exfoliating features inside it. So I exfoliate gently
Love an exfoliator.
But a good peel, like a really good peel. I'm using this TCA peel right now, and I've used it on you before.
Yeah.
And it's incredible at just like sort of overturning the skin cells and giving fresh skin and, also encouraging elasticity and collagen production. That's a really good habit to be in. And go to your naturopathic doctor or your esthetician, just go to somebody that really gets your skin and can give you like a monthly treatment.
Yes.
I think if you can add that, I think over the age of 30 and 40, you can start doing that for yourself.
Yeah.
Self-care.
Self-care. I know. I love a good facial as my self-care. Okay, I have last few questions for you. And this is going slightly in a different way. But I love asking guests this at the end of this show. Show? This is now a show.
This is a show.
Podcast show. When was the last time you cried?
Oh my gosh. When was the last time I cried? I think it was last week.
Was it?
Yeah.
Are you a crier? generally, or does it take a lot for you to get into tears?
I used to be when I was perimenopausal.
Like it really depends where my hormones are
It
at.
depends where my hormones are. Yeah. I cried last week. My ex-mother-in-law had passed away. So it really, brought back, she was such a wonderful human being. And so I think and it felt really good to cry because it was almost like all this other trauma was being released as well. So, and I remember thinking, gosh, you haven't cried in a while.
Wow.
So yeah, I think it felt really good after. I was a bit drained for the rest of the day and the morning of, but then I feel like it rebooted me. So I think it's something I'm going to try to do more often.
Oh my God, thank you for sharing that. Yeah. What kind of crier are you? Are you like a silent and dramatic, or are you like a baller?
Ooh, that's a good one. I think I'm a silent crier.
Are you? Yeah.
I just like have the tears coming down.
Yeah, I feel like you'd be a cute crier for sure. What emotion do you find difficult to handle in life at the moment?
For me, like what emotion can I not, or from someone else?
For you, like what emotion are you trying to work through at the moment? Like what do you find hard to feel within yourself?
Well, you know what's so interesting that you said that? Anger. And I think I'm learning to release, to be angry more.
Yes.
Because I think we're taught to like not be angry. And I think if you look at a lot of hormonal problems in women, it's because they're holding in that anger and that rage of, there's like a lot of, being a woman as it is like a health hazard. Like we have so much, like it really is, we have our hormones, we have, inequality, it's just, it goes into a whole other podcast. But I think being able to like authentically be angry and let it out so that it's healthy for your cells. You're not keeping it in, because there's a lot of things we don't realize. There's so much inequality. There's, so much discrimination, with the skin color, being a woman, all of those are against us. So I think that for me, being able to let that anger out and be present with it and release it, I think that's been really good for me. So I would say more I would be gravitating towards it.
Yeah, I think that's so true. I find I've been, through this podcast, I feel like I've learned a lot about myself. And I think one thing that I have seen that seems prevalent with everyone that sits here is just the idea of wanting to let go of emotions. Like we all just want to like process them and let them out of our system. And some obviously are harder than others. I think anger is one that's harder to let go of sometimes, or like actually express, because we mask it in defensiveness, or there's so many different masks we can have for our emotions. And so sometimes we'll get so used to them showing up and not realizing what the inner hurt actually is. Like, where is this reaction? What emotion is it actually stemming from? And so sometimes I say, okay, I look like I'm angry, but what am I really feeling? Like I sound like I'm angry, but what am I really feeling? Is it disappointment? Is it hurt? Is it frustration? Like what is... They say anger is actually a secondary emotion. It's never a primary emotion.
Right.
And so like anger can be a secondary response to fear. Okay, I'm angry because I feel unsafe, or I feel like somebody else in my life is unsafe. So I'm going to act aggressively and feel angry. Or anger can come from sadness, but I don't want to show my sadness. And so I'm going to show up in an aggressive way because that feels safer for me to show up as.
Right.
So many different things that I can root from, but anger being a secondary emotion was really interesting for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good to know. I love that.
Oh my God, thank you so much. This was so amazing. I feel like we got so much information out of it, and I feel like I really ground you with so many questions, but I hope that was useful for everyone. And thank you so much for joining me. It was so nice to hear from you.
Thanks for having me, Radhi.